Yes, indeed. Steeler Nation, we are back once again for the one and only The Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. As always, I am Jay York Football alongside of me, staying safe during these time. Hope everyone's staying safe in Florida, North Carolina. Mr. Mic'd Up Sports One, how are you?
I'm good, man. Yeah, thoughts, prayers, to the west side of Florida. Just absolutely awful, of course. And if anybody's watching there, I know we have Steeler fans all over the world. Want to send our well wishes, of course. And we're fortunate to be on the east side over here. Had some smaller tornadoes rip through, but anybody who was affected, of course, we're thinking about today. Um, but yeah, man, it's a big week. I'm headed to Vegas a couple
Uh-oh.
days for Steelers Raiders, and an opportunity to get back on track, of course, against a team that's really beaten up right now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so before we get started, let's shout out to our great partners over at Manta Sleep and a great segue into it before I'll get to the Manta, but you got to play some bets at DraftKings and we'll get to that. The only mask designed and optimized for the deepest sleep possible. 100% blackout. Like I said, you're traveling, whatever you have to do, make sure you visit mantasleep.com to learn more. And you can use our code SICK Steelers for 10% off. I have it right here. I use it every night. I go to bed pretty early start to my day, and it just really helps me out. Just get a restful night's sleep and feel recharged. And we know how important 8 hours of sleep is, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about something else that's very important to us,
Mm-hmm.
and that is DraftKings Sportsbook.
There you
We
have
need
it.
you guys to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use our code SICK Sports, whether you call it a touchdown, a tutty, in the end zone, hit and pay dirt. Touchdowns do matter more at DraftKings Sports. If you want to jump on and bet the Steelers game, I think the Steelers are -3 right
Mm-hmm.
now, as I mentioned, going up against kind of a battered team there in Vegas. But every game is a coin flip in the NFL when you have this type of parity. So make sure you
Yeah.
download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use our code 6Sports. You get 200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Absolutely incredible. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Go ahead, Shane.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
There you have it. Play the intro and let's get to our great guest, Shane.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Harris Smith shields. Blackout. Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
All right, this guy is a betting and fantasy expert. You can find him over at MB Fantasy Life. Hear him on Sirius XM. We are pleased to welcome in none other than Adam Ronis. And Adam, we won't mention what team you root for on here because it was a rough weekend for the Steelers last Sunday. Maybe I already did. Just kind of throw it out there.
Yeah, that is the case. I am a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. Although I am a realistic fan, I don't think they're very good this year. I was a little surprised they beat the Steelers with all the injuries on the defensive side of the football, but they were able to get the late touchdown from Dak Prescott to Jaylen Tolbert to pull off the victory. But I just don't think they're very good this year.
Yeah, and that says a lot about our Pittsburgh Steelers. Although one game sample size certainly does not determine everything. You're a fantasy guy. I mean, a lot of Steelers fans watched that game and said, "Who the heck is Jaylen Tolbert?" So, as a Cowboys fan and a fantasy guy, this is somebody who's really climbing. Right? We shouldn't feel terrible about Jaylen Tolbert tearing us up.
No, not at all. He just has needed an opportunity. So he was drafted in 2022, and it looked like it was going to be a bust of a pick. He didn't do anything. Started to show some signs last year. Statistically, he didn't do much. And then all offseason, we were hearing about him. And it was just a matter of could he gain a role in the offense? And I did draft him on some fantasy teams. I play in a lot of deeper formats with 20 roster spots. So I took him in the last couple rounds. Did cut him after like week 1 when he had 1 catch for 12 yards on 2 targets. And then, of course, week 2, he has 9 targets, 6 for 82. And then Brandon Cooks recently going on IR opened up the door for Tolbert to become a more big part of this offense. And they definitely need someone. We know CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson going to get their targets, but they could use another weapon. And last week against Pittsburgh, it was Tolbert, 10 targets, 7 for 87, and a touchdown. We know the Cowboys are going to be primarily a passing offense. Even though Rico Dowdle did get 20 carries last week, they have not really been great running the football, but they could use another weapon, and Tolbert was the guy that stepped up last week, and I could see him playing a decent role the rest of the year for Dallas.
Yeah, absolutely. That does not make us feel as terrible, no question. But let's switch to the black and gold specifically over here. Mentioned that you're a betting expert, got hands involved, obviously, and a lot of buckets over there. But I want to talk a little bit of win-loss total in regard to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coming into the season, they were at 8.5. This team started 3-0. Kind of felt like, all right, that's an easy number to achieve. Mike Tomlin team, this team has been over 500 for the last 60 years, it feels like, under Coach Tomlin. What do you think right now about that 8.5 total? You if you had to place a bet, over or under?
I lean towards the under, but like you said, it's always tough to bet against Mike Tomlin because he just finds a way. And there's been years where you look at the Steelers, oh, this team's not that good, and they just always find a way. And it was looking like that early. The Colts loss obviously was disappointing. Dallas, it's going to happen. 2 pretty evenly matched teams. But the schedule, there are some tough spots on the schedule ahead. You have the Jets. That's not going to be easy. You have the Commanders, who are way better. I'm sure you guys maybe were penciling that in as a win before the year, and now not so much, even though their defense still has a lot of question marks, and they have faced 3 porous defenses. And we know the Steelers are one of the top defenses in the NFL, but the Ravens are going to be tough. Maybe the Browns. You might get 2 W's there with the way the Browns are playing. But you know how it is in rivalry games and division games. The Bengals, they still get twice, and who knows where the Bengals are. Just a terrible start for them. We have seen them dig out of holes before. You got the Eagles, the Chiefs. So there's some tough spots on the schedule here for them. So they might get to 8. So if you asking me to take over under, I would take the under. They obviously, if you're on the over, they have to win this game against Vegas, which I think they should. Then the other question is, like, who's going to be the quarterback the entire year? Does Justin Fields keep the job? Do they go to Russell Wilson, who's now finally practicing and healthy? So Fields is one of those guys where he looks real good at times and real bad. He still takes too many sacks. He doesn't get rid of the football enough. And then you have the George Pickens saga as well. Only playing less than 60% of the snaps last week. They said it was, they're trying to maximize it, his routes and everything. But we all know that there's just some issues with him at times. And the talent is immense, but it's just, can he stay focused on the field? It feels like there's always something with him that doesn't have to do with football.
Who gives the Steelers a better chance of winning 9 or 10 games, Fields or Wilson?
I will say Fields, just because of his ability to run, and just it changes the way defenses have to play this offense. So again, I'm from a fantasy perspective, I love Fields because of that rushing floor. From an NFL perspective, he still has flaws, but are we sure that Russell Wilson is going to upgrade him? I mean, he's not going to be very mobile in the pocket. So I lean towards Fields.
We're hanging out with Adam Ronis, Fantasy and Betting, MB Fantasy Life, Sirius XM. Before I toss it to Jordan, what do you make of this Cleveland Browns situation? They were projected a higher win total than the Steelers coming into the season. I think they might be the bottom of the NFL now, like 5.5, 6, 6.5, somewhere around that. Is it solely Deshaun Watson right now?
A big part of it is, yes. I mean, he's just been terrible. They have had a lot of injuries on the offensive line. They will get Nick Chubb back soon, but you can't expect them to just walk into a role where he's getting a ton of carries coming off these injuries with the MCL, ACL. It's not going to happen immediately. But Watson has been terrible. And he looks lost out there. Even when he has time, he's just running around. He's not making good decisions with the football. He's not decisive. He's taken 26 sacks in 5 games. I mean, that's just insane. It's hard to have success. 4.8 yards per pass attempt. It's brutal, but we all know that he has this massive contract and they just don't want to turn away from him. I'm assuming this is an ownership decision here because I'm sure Stefanski would go in a different direction, but I don't think it's completely under his decision. So, yeah, Watson has been brutal. Anyone who's watched the Browns games, it's bad. And then I don't know what they're doing with their running back rotation. Jerome Ford had 2 good weeks in a row, and they come out in the first quarter, and it's Deonta Foreman getting a ton of carries. And they've done this twice now in 5 weeks. And meanwhile, Ford has been their best back, averaging 5.2 yards per carry. So I don't know what they're doing, and the vibes are really bad there. But it all comes down to Deshaun Watson. This is not the same player. And if you wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt going into this year, to say, all right, now he's got a full off season, working with the team, it has gotten worse. It is so bad for this team. And every week it seems like people are like, all right, this is the week they get better. And it doesn't happen. Like if you cannot put up numbers on the Washington secondary, it's over for you.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to stick with the offense here. Arthur Smith, just kind of think, I know it's still early, but what do you think he ultimately brings, like scheme-wise and just where this offense is heading? Obviously, I still think they're trying to find their identity. Consistency seems to be the biggest thing. They do show spurts of it, but overall, where do you think by the end of the season this offense can go? Because we need it.
Yeah, they definitely need it. I mean, you see the first 3 weeks, the way they want to play. They win games 18-10, 13-6, 20-10. So that's the way they want to play. And then the Colts surprisingly went off on them and it forced them to play catch up. The Cowboys game, again, one of those tight back and forth games. So it's a conservative offense. They want to run the football. They're not going to open up. There's just not enough weapons. I mean, Pickens is an explosive player, but he just doesn't get the football enough. Yeah. I like Pat Freiermuth a lot. I thought he would play a bigger role in this offense, being potentially the second target. And we've seen Arthur Smith in the past use his tight ends a lot. And I know people who had Kyle Pitts were frustrated, but he used Pitts, Jonnu Smith. They used the tight ends a lot. I forgot the number off the top of my head, but the target share was somewhere like around 26% for tight ends. So I thought Freiermuth could have a bigger year. They need more weapons though. And then Jaylen Warren's been banged up. That's a big loss. Jaylen Warren is really good, man. He brings
that was my next question. We could just run with it when he comes back from injury. Do you think fantasy wise, like that he's worth starting? I know last year we actually did the Jaylen Warren show here and had him on. And yeah, he was just such an impact player and hoping to kind of get that thunder lightning back when he comes back. Do you see fantasy value in him when he's healthy?
I hope so. I mean, he's been banged up basically the entire season. So we really haven't seen him get that opportunity. You know, Najee Harris has kind of slowed down. I know he's been banged up a little bit too. They gave him 20, 17, and 18 carries the first 3 weeks. And now it's gone back to 13 and 14 mix. You know, I think it would help Najee Harris. It would help the offense because Warren's got a lot of ability. I was with you last year too. I was using him a lot in the second half. This year, though, it's just he hasn't been healthy. So I think they do need him. He brings another element to the offense, especially in the catching the ball out of the backfield. He's just he can break big plays, and that's what they need. They need some playmakers in this offense.
Yeah, no question about it. Go ahead, Jordan. Sorry.
I had one more, but then I'll throw it back to you, Mike. If you had to pick right now, who would you have winning the AFC North? And again, I know it's like the way too early prediction, but it's just fun to kind of, we have a lot of local media on here. So when we can get a national guy kind of to get their perspective on, it's insane. It's insanity, if that's the best word to describe it.
Yeah, I think it's that way across the NFL this year. Every week we're surprised, but it's just there's no dominant teams, and it really is week to week and matchup based. I would lean towards Baltimore right now. I do think they have some flaws as well. They've been really good against the run, struggle to stop the pass, and we know the Ravens, they tend to get these big leads and let teams back in the game like they did in week 3 against Dallas. That Raiders game was an awful loss in week 2. They dominated the Bills, and they had the back and forth with the Bengals. the Bengals, I don't want to count out, but 1-4 is really tough. They needed that win. They kind of gave it away. They got very conservative in overtime, settled for the McPherson field goal and missed it. But they have some winnable games up here in the schedule ahead. So I like their schedule going forward, especially if the Browns are continue to be bad. They get them twice, but again, division games, it doesn't matter what the records are. Teams know each other very well. But I lean towards Baltimore right now with Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry has been phenomenal. What an addition for them. That's kind of what they've been missing over the last couple years. They've been able to get it done with these Gus Edwards, Justice Hill types, but not able to get over the hump with them. But I would take Baltimore at this point. I mean, the fact that the Steelers are 3-2 just is a credit to Mike Tomlin and the defense. This is a really good defense. I have their defense in one of my leagues, and I've started them every week. A lot in fantasy, we like to stream defenses a lot. I don't care basically who the Steelers are facing right now. I'm just putting them in there every single week.
Yeah, definitely this week I think is a great opportunity.
Oh,
against, who knows? Is Aiden O'Connell starting?
Aiden O'Connell is
they announced it. Yeah.
Does that help or hurt the Steelers defense?
I don't think it really matters. We've seen O'Connell before, and he's done well at times, and other times he hasn't. They won't have Devontae Adams, so that really helps the Steelers defense. Brock Bowers is the guy you have to watch out for. One of the best fantasy tight ends as a rookie. Had a big game last week, but I don't think it really matters at this point. We see sometimes these quarterback changes uplift the team, but O'Connell was there last year, and not having Devontae Adams definitely hurts this team, and they don't have a good running game either. So I don't think it matters for the Steelers. That their defense is one of the best fantasy plays of the week.
Tight end position has been so strange so far this season. As a fantasy guy, why? What's going on there?
It's weird. I think we saw the first few weeks offense was way down, and I think it was the lack of preseason games for these starters. This first couple weeks are essentially the preseason now, since so many teams sit their starters. We also have a lot of injuries on the offensive line, a lot of injuries to skill players. So obviously each tight end situation is different. Like Travis Kelce got off to a brutal start, but he has 19 targets the last 2 games. And with Rashee Rice going down, it is a massive boost for Kelce. They have to get him the football now. So Kelce, I didn't love before the year, but he's going to finish as a top 2 tight end once again. Brock Bowers, you feel good about. Jake Ferguson, I think you feel good about. And he was a guy that I drafted, right around tight end 9, tight end 10, because to me, he was the number 2 option in the passing game for Dallas. He doesn't have the ceiling of some of the other tight ends. George Kittle is one of the most talented tight ends in football, but he plays in an offense where you have Deebo Samuel, have Brandon Ayuk. Yeah. You had Christian McCaffrey, and who might be back in a few weeks, but he just can't go off every week because there's too many other guys in the offense. He doesn't get featured like a Travis Kelce does. Trey McBride, I think, will be fine. He missed a game because of a concussion. Laporta's been a disappointment, but again, with the emergence of Jameson Williams, that means Laporta can't have consistency every week, because what you're looking for in fantasy at a tight end, you want them to be the number 1 or number 2 option in their offense. And if they aren't, they're going to be inconsistent. Mark Andrews is the most surprising. He had a good game finally last week. Yeah, but Lamar Jackson threw the ball over 40 times. The Ravens are not doing that every week. That's not the way the Ravens want to play. The Bengals got them into a track meet and forced them to throw that much. And Baltimore might have to do that against Washington if Washington can keep up with them in week 6. But Andrews, he had the car accident right before the start of the season. That might still be an issue. Isaiah Likely's in the mix. So Andrews is definitely one to be concerned about. Kyle Pitts finally had the big game. But again, Cousins put the ball in the air 58 times. That's not going to happen every week. So it's been a brutal position if you didn't draft a handful of guys. Even Dalton Kincaid, I thought he would be good. I drafted him in a few leagues. He's been a disappointment. And you would have thought last week with no Khalil Shakir, maybe he steps up. Nope, he didn't. So Evan Ingram's been out with a hamstring injury, so maybe he comes back and helps. Cole Kmet had one good game, basically, and that was because Keenan Allen was out. So, yeah, it's just been a dreadful position, and it felt like people were saying before the year, oh, yeah, tight end's good this year. We have plenty of options. And people say that every year, and then the season starts, and we're like, oh, yeah, that's 4 guys.
Yeah, for sure. And, Pat Freiermuth has been an option. He's getting some targets. He scored a couple touchdowns, so definitely not the worst.
I wish they would use him more. He's good.
Sure.
He's really good.
He is
such a good tight end. And again, I had him as a sleeper this year because I said, okay, he's going to be the number 2 option in this offense. And he has scored a touchdown in 2 straight games. But I would like to see more targets. I would like to see 6, 7, 8 targets a game because he's a way better than his stats show.
Yeah. Totally agree. Jordan, you got anything else?
No, I think that it was just great being able to get your perspective. As always, appreciate your stuff. We love your content. So just tell our viewers where they can find you and what you got coming up.
Yeah, you can find me at fantasylife.com, the Fantasy Life show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Myself and Kendall Valenzuela. We're on Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. Sunday morning, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. As we get you ready for the week with those start-sit decisions. I'm also on Sunday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy with Lisa Ann from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And I also give out my betting picks on Dub Club. So you can find the link on my Twitter at Adam Ronis to start the NFL season. I am 26-10 for plus 12.7 units. I also do baseball and basketball, which is right around the corner, and it's just one price. So there's weekly options, monthly options, 6 months. And if you send me a message on Twitter at Adam Ronis, if you're listening, I'll get you guys a discount.
Sounds good. Well, hey, with a record like that, yeah.
That is smooth. The Dub Club. I love that. You got to get T-shirts. You got T-shirts, Dub Club T-shirts made?
Nah, I don't yet. Not yet.
Throwing that idea at you.
I'm lucky that it's a hot start to the season. We all know that in betting, you're going to have ups and downs. So, I always tell people when you're betting, it's long-term. You cannot just judge someone on a week, 2 weeks. Even now, don't even judge me on that. Yeah, it's a good start, but you need a longer, long-term sample. And I will have a down week here or there. I hope I don't. We all hope we can win every bet, but realistically, you can't. But you're just looking for someone that shows consistency. And when you go through the downs, you got to understand that it'll turn around. It'll get better. And, I'm fortunate the first 5 weeks has been a really good stretch, and just hope it continues.
There you go. Well, best of luck. We'll be tuning in. Thank you for your time, man. We'll definitely do it again.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
You got it, man.
Appreciate you.
All right, I guess it's time for our predictions. What do you think this weekend? Steelers need to bounce back. You need to get to 4-2. It's a must-win. You can't lose to the Colts and Raiders.
Well, just because you're going to be there, I'm going to say that they're going to win. So maybe you'll be the good luck charm. I would say, I don't know, man. Is the offense going to show up in the first half again? I don't know.
They haven't at all.
That's like what I'm trying to figure out. Like, I need 4 quarters of football, and I mean, I really haven't seen it. So I think that the Steelers squeak by. I just think the Raiders aren't, nothing really jumps out to me. Obviously, Aiden O'Connell got announced as QB again. I don't even know if that really matters. But
Minshew did beat the Steelers last year, and he is out. So Minshew be out.
Yeah, I like Gardner Minshew.
He's always scary. He beat the Ravens in Baltimore.
Yeah. I'm going to say 17-7 Steelers. I feel like the offense kind of comes alive, but I think that the defense comes back because I really think you heard our guy, Deshaun Elliott. It's just need to get on the same page and communicate. So
yeah, I'll go 21-13 Steelers. I reserve the right to change my prediction if I see anybody
here we go. Read the small print.
If I see anybody out late at the casino with me, hanging out at 3 a.m. and then I might change that prediction, right? I won't throw anybody under the bus. It'll be handshakes and hugs, but I'm telling you, if
make
I see
sure you
anybody
use
out
our code
late night partying,
Sports
with me, I'm allowed to. I got nothing big the next day except going to the game. But I'm for the most part kidding. But use our code 6sports, of course. DraftKings, great partner with us. Check out Tuesday's episode, man. Deshaun Elliott, he is such a blast to have on. He speaks his mind. His Devontae Adams quote has gone viral. Talked about Beanie Bishop and, of course, talked about bouncing back. So we're excited to see what he brings, what the defense brings, and continue to have him on throughout the season.
Yes, and get us a touchdown. Moose. Shane, take it away. Here we go, man.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.